Hi everyone, this is Karak from ACG, and today I come to you fresh from the snowy steeps of a mythical world, where man has befriended a race of minotaur that don't have bull faces, and both have decided that the best bet is for them to join up, drink until they can't see straight, and then hit each other in the face with swords while an ancient race is attacking their lands. Because not getting along makes total sense in the face of a genocidal onslaught. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today I bring you the console review for Banner Saga, the role-playing turn-based battle game that's one half XCOM Lite, one half Starvation Simulator. Let's check it out. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's the review for the console version of Banner Saga. Don Bluth-inspired horned death machines, adventures with worse luck than a Donner Party, and loading for preloading loading screens. Graphics are up first. I don't think anyone's gonna argue that Disney plus Don Bluth-styled minnow dudes smashing the shit out of puny humans doesn't look good. In fact, the artistic representation of man and their best/worst friends, the Varls, are done well. The art is a slightly skewed version of typical animation, which lends itself to the fantasy of the fiction itself. Varls are big, Viking-looking dudes with tattooed horns that really play more as a subtype of human than anything fantasy-inspired. The humans, of course, if in France, would need doctor permission to continue adventuring. These dudes are malnourished, thin adventures that you would expect in pretty much anything vaguely Tolkien-esque. And yes, that's actually prior to them starving. Now, animations during cutscenes are almost nil, with the occasional wind blowing someone's robe or hair moving around. However, the animation during the battles is really impressive, with sword flourishes finishing off bad guys as final moves spell the end for aggressor and defender alike. Animation is decidedly different than many titles out there, and it's going to be a toss-up if you like the disjointed but unique animations done here. It can certainly feel while you're playing like the title's skipping frames when characters are attacking or moving, but that's just one of the side effects of this animation style that they've chose to use. One of the standouts is when your team ups and decides to travel, and the art style changes to this multi-leveled, almost paper-looking presentation you can zoom into and out of, and it does an incredible job reminding you that this is a game of inches played in a world of vast miles, and there's a symbolic connection to the hero journey gameplay that's there. Now, not all is well in the land of frostbitten toes. This has to be the first game where zooming in on a battlefield made the game blurrier, and I don't mean a bit, I mean it looks like you opened up your eyes underwater. It's terrible. It makes no sense whatsoever, and is so artistically disjointed from the rest of the title that I rarely ended up seeing action up close. It could be some kind of error on the console's delivery of the graphics, or the way in which the title post-processes the image, but instead of feeling close to the action, it felt downright terrible. It's horrid. That being said, it's an inspired attempt at doing something different graphically, but unfortunately, you're seeing it through a glaucoma filter. Sound, music, and voice.
Expected to see the dredge with my own eyes. What happened in the north? Already we see more between the trees as we approach our home.
Sound is, of course, up first, and whether you're skewering gray armored automatons or smashing the skulls of humans skulking about for scraps, the sounds of battle can be described as muddy. Honestly, steel hitting home against steel shouldn't sound like you wrapped a damn wiffle ball bat in socks. Every weapon from the laughably poor arrows hitting nondescript armor pieces to the special moves sound either muddy or in no way accurate. Deflections sound like someone dropped a piece of metal on a concrete floor. Honestly, if these were accurate sounds, then their final mixing is just wrong, but I've checked it out on PC, and that's pretty much the way it sounds. It's not accurate, it's not engaging, and it's not good. Additionally, the complete or almost complete lack of environmental sound means most places, scenes, and battles can sound sonically dead, resulting in cutscenes without anything but the barest of audio interest to the gamer. Sometimes the wind blows, and that's about it. Music. Now, here the game shines, with the thrum of skin drums during battle to the excellent use of brass during travels to sort of signify that army on the move. Austin Wintory continues to understand that video game titles need both moments of momentum, but also that dynamic change to the gameplay that it requires. This score is filled with dynamic music that changes as you play and do things within it. My favorite parts are moments of solitude, confined to a very lean number of instruments, so that not only graphically, but audibly, those scenes portray a loneliness that being on a journey as the leader can convey. excellent job here, and even though Wintry was threatened to be fined by his own union for doing this music, as it was outside union work, this is anything but a small work and instead shows some fairly lofty ambitions, especially for somebody technically under threat. Voice. There's almost none. When there is voice, it's excellent, and it's usually voiceovers to explain the direness of the situation as some group travels from one shitty place to another one and hope that they can find safety or an apple or something. It's good, but it's absolutely rare. Gameplay. Honestly, Banner Saga has more rather than less in common with other games of its genre. It's a hero's tale, though there are many heroes, and of course in the typical style of most of these tales, the heroes contained within aren't perfect. The entire story really revolves around an ancient menace returning to the land and a series of surprise attacks taking the humans and their Varl friends by surprise. You jump around the narrative as you play various groups impacted by these events. When traveling, choose your own adventure moments pop up and you make choices which can lead to an instant or delayed reaction like losing men, losing Varls, gaining or losing resources, and a variety of other factors in between. When you camp, you can upgrade your characters with renown, which they get by smiting their enemies with poorly sharpened pieces of steel, as well as outfit them with items you can find on your journeys like necklaces and rings that give small bonuses to your battle's abilities. Jumping into battle is honestly fairly rote. You have a setup period where you can choose your overall locations on your side of the battle, and then you begin. Everyone can move and then attack in their turn, while stats like willpower allow you to add extra squares to your movement ability or extra damage when you attack. Varls are larger than humans and take up 4 squares, while humans take up 1 on the battlefield. And this can lend itself to a heavy amount of really enjoyable strategy, trying to get your team based and set up just right. And it's really an enjoyable enough affair, to be honest. Sadly, Banner Saga falls victim to the typical fallacy that diagonal attacks and straight-on attacks are different. Luckily, most turn-based games have stopped doing that, and it's easy to assume it's somewhat based on the pikeman, spearman, square formation attack and turn motif. But since this is one person, any diagonal attack should have had the same possibility of straight-on attacks and still been able to be used. I only bring it up because at times it can cause your entire team to be completely fucked, as everyone is bumping into one another like kids in the back seats of cars at a movie theater. And the unrealistic attack patterns aren't that natural, meaning you have to train yourself against what makes sense versus what does within the game logic. Small issues, but worth mentioning if you're new to this title. Now, when attacking, you have a double stat system that somewhat matters, where armor, if it's above the hit points of the character, offers a chance for the attacker to miss, and so you need to break that armor down. It doesn't make any real sense, but it does add its strategy and gives you a reason to use a bevy of the special skills against the enemies that you would have no real desire or need to use if the arbitrary reasoning didn't exist within this. Now, one thing I did like about larger battles is you could take a hands-off approach and have some light strategic choices to make, like charge, jump into battle yourself, or retreat. And if you led but didn't jump into battle, you could possibly live through the engagement, but more of your men had a chance of dying. It was just a little bit of extra strategy. All of that is fairly bog standard, to be honest, but let me tell you what isn't. The absolutely punishing, completely arbitrary loading that occurs. Honestly, they should change the name to Loading Saga. I'm not kidding. Every single aspect of the game involves a loading screen, but the save game. And loading into a cutscene to read one line of text, and then loading back into another scene to see a camp, and then choosing to go into an area, check your guys' skills, only to have that load again is downright punishing. Nothing within the title screams the need for loading screens, especially with almost no ambient sounds, no voices, and very little in the way of animation for any of the cutscenes. Also, there is a dramatic and noticeable lag at all times in both battle, but also in cutscenes. And when a cutscene skews left or right to show another person talking, you can expect a stutter. And this is on an SSD, by the way. In fact, a lot of the time while playing this title, it felt like more of a mobile title or one running on Flash in a browser. It's not only punishing, but it does the one thing no game should ever do. It automatically stops you from wanting to do further things. And what's even insane is the load times aren't fast. For what you're seeing, to load into a very text-heavy location can be anywhere from 7 to 22 seconds. It's insane and completely unacceptable on these high-memory consoles, and that was installed in 2 different places to see if there was some issue with the system itself. Fun factor. Whatever magical or fresh Banner Saga once had, it's certainly hid behind all of these technical issues. Listen, when battling, it's okay fun, and I enjoyed some of the choose-your-own-adventure moments, but the absolute dearth of environmental audio, voice, and in some places even music, meant that any emotional factor or care went out the window. Also, whatever freshness this may have had 2 years ago is, I think, lost on many of today's gamers, as it's really not fresh anymore. Telling a story from unique viewpoints isn't new, turn-based battle isn't new, and load screens aren't new. The animation isn't even new, though it's still pretty cool looking. I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never touch it rating scale. This is solidly a wait for a sale. It would be a rent, but the fact is it's already cheap. It's just it needs to be a little cheaper. The game is hindered by unemotive audio, loading screens lag, and blurry graphics at the absolute time it shouldn't have them. It's held up, though, by an excellent score and at times an interesting story. And if you haven't checked out Banner Saga, my suggestion is, unless you have to check it out on a console, check this thing out on the PC. As always, if you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike, and peace out.